of co-operators. They have the identity of like entrepreneurs maybe, or
Right.
you know.
I think that is an issue. When I was the president of the Hanover Co-op, we were approached by a bunch of people from a town in New Hampshire that was about an hour and a half away from us. And they said, "We love your store. Will you open a store in our town, Littleton?" And we said, "No, you're too far away. We'll help you start your own co-op." And we did that. But the hardest part of that was convincing them that we were serious, that we would really just give them everything we knew. And we would even lend them staff people so that they could actually have our people working in their store teaching them how to run their business. I mean, and so what I noticed is that people in our culture are generally not conditioned to cooperate with each other.
Correct. And that, I think that's huge, and that's why people learn to know themselves in different ways when they are part of a cooperative, but until that happens, I think a lot of people are disinclined, they feel constrained. An LLC gives them flexibility, they can still know themselves in old ways, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, LLCs are sort of the entity du jour, right? Like business lawyers just want to create LLCs because it's sort of what they know and it's what gets all the attention. So we're all about just kind of spreading consciousness about the cooperative form of doing business, because I didn't hear those people from George Mason Law School really, I didn't hear them give any compelling reasons for starting LLCs other than maybe the immigration issues.
Right, which are serious.
Yeah.
I-
And that's the only argument I've ever heard that really
Or
sticks
not
with me.
having cooperative law.
Right.
So after a co-op incorporates and has their bylaws solidified, the articles of organization and bylaws solidified, when would they frequently next need a lawyer or other governing documents that would be needed in terms of growth or conflict of interest stuff or things like that?
I think any business is well advised to have an ongoing relationship with a lawyer, so that as little things come up, you can just call your lawyer up, and if it's little enough, the lawyer will just go, "Oh yeah, X, Y, and Z, they'll just give you the answer." And if it's a little bigger, maybe they'll charge you a few bucks to do it. But things like conflict of interest policies, it's actually good to have your lawyer draft that for you, because then it's well written. If you're a consumer co-op, you're well advised to have a lawyer actually on your board, because then you can use that lawyer for free for a lot of little things that come up. But it's a matter of judgment. It's a little bit about how confident the members of your worker co-op are about sort of autonomy and self-government. I mean, none of what I'm talking about is rocket science, right? I mean, anything I'm telling you about is stuff you have the capacity as intelligent people to understand. So if you want to take the trouble to learn it all yourselves, it's not that hard.
She can. I have huge resistance to some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I do too. Let's see if we do.
Push back.
So, and the other professional relationship you want, of course, is with a CPA. And so tax drives so much that a lot of the decisions you make are going to be driven by, the accounting and tax realities that are produced by whatever you decide.
When do you think co-ops what do they need to have done to be ready to incorporate? I don't know if you saw the list of questions that we recommend people think about before talking to a lawyer, but how much of that, for example, or other stuff?
I personally think you should have a pretty well realized business plan before you incorporate, because if you know what your business plan is, then you kind of know what your bylaws need to say and what kind of entity you want to be.
I don't know, I wish that I could, this is probably not the session when I talk about this stuff, but just the slogging through the process of becoming a business, and you're not getting paid for doing that work, is an issue in the diggers, you know, it's just, it's an ongoing issue. We're thinking about just splitting off two or three members who are really committed, but I know that they're not all gonna be around in the winter when we're not working, you know, I mean, just, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, so that's why you want to reach out to people who provide technical assistance to co-ops like Meg.
Yes, right.
Because that's the sort of, that's not legal advice, that's sort of spiritual advice almost, right?
Yeah, right.
Or motivational advice, or just encouragement, or just sort of cooperative insight that doesn't necessarily have to come from a lawyer, but just...
And a Jiminy Cricket, you know, I mean, if this is what you want, this is what you have to do, sort of reminders.
And we have to do a better job of just educating people about what cooperation really is. So we have to be in schools and just out in the culture, making sure people understand what a co-op is.
Yeah.
Because it's people throw the word around from time to time, and people don't understand. People don't understand it.
But there are all kinds of co-ops, you know. There are co-ops that aren't terribly, you know, you know, they're very hierarchical. There are co-ops that are where not all workers have equal say.
Well, plus another thing that is confusing is that there are producer co-ops out there, and those co-ops, a lot of them, are indistinguishable from investor-owned businesses. I mean, I would tell you that the Agrimark co-op, say, which is a big dairy co-op, I don't see any significant difference between them and an investor-owned business that would be doing the same thing. I mean, it's a nice, it's good if you're a dairy farmer to be a member of a co-op like that, because then you have something that you can do with your product that is going to be remunerative to you, but you're not really building the cooperative economy by doing that, I don't think. And you know, the same thing with like Ace Hardware. I mean, that's a co-op, right?
Yeah.
So that's or Carpet World. That's another one. I mean, these are just basically conventional investor-owned businesses that are cooperating with other conventional investor-owned businesses at the wholesale level to sort of aggregate their wholesale buying power. That's good, but it's not the same thing we're talking about.
It's not economy changing or like creating types of
So that's a real problem, because those people, those kinds of co-ops are very influential at the national level in the cooperative movement, and we don't want to like tell them to go away because they have a place, but I think we need more attention to the values and principles than what they're willing to give.
And they just, they're just looking to secure their supply chain, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I have another question.